Hi everyone, we're back. I'm eating popcorn. It's very
We're,
good.
we're basically in the thing of
What kind of popcorn you got?
Fire roasted sweet corn flavored popcorn. It's very good.
Phlegm.
We're currently discussing the absolute madness of Shonaruth and how it bled into real life. Because we see the name, but it's never pronounced how it is spelled. There's a disconnect in your brain, which is amazing. 10 out of 10 role playing. We've been doing it the whole time.
Volvo, you magnificent bastard! You should be in here too.
This man is the one who created the ship between Mordecai and Celine, by the way. Volvo.
Oh yeah. That was Volvo's fault.
Yeah, you gotta remember, Volvo's a waifu hunter. That's what he does.
Volvo.
Volvo is a waifu hunter.
And Celine is best waifu.
Oh, there is gonna be some heat in the Discord tonight.
Alright, who's best waifu? Let's all vote. Maddie, put up a poll.
See,
it's time, Maddie. It's time for the audience to decide who is the best waifu of the Chroma Company campaign.
Bright, or Celine, or Jade.
Well, I mean,
Or Seltzer.
Technically, there's also Zelda, and I mean, Mercury also counts, I guess.
But she's not a member of the Chroma Company.
Yeah, she's not a player character.
She's not a member of the Chroma Company.
Oh my god. Legit.
Best husbander, though.
I'm out.
Casimir. Of course.
No.
Yeah.
Casimir is not best husbando. He's best hoe.
No, that
We all
goes
love for Icelandian ass.
Seltzer is best hoe too.
Oh my god, it's actually a poll.
Yeah, but the difference was only one of them was getting paid.
Oh.
I mean, Casimir married to 5 girls, so.
Yeah. So, but when you were
previously married, age is the age
Frankly, that reminds me of a really just not appropriate expression that we use.
Did Ravenstar start a poll? Oh, okay. She must have thrown one up while I was making a poll here in chat.
Raven's probably got that going, huh?
Raven!
Actually, Bang, you asked a fantastic question. I don't think we got to your question, actually, at the very start of this stream.
Oh.
Maddie, maybe you want to clarify to the audience, when the heck did you end up choosing Shoner through that whole thing? Like, at what point was that jumped on as a major plot point? Because he was asking, it's like, why'd you make Derek the BBEG?
Also, Raven, you forgot Bright.
Yeah, where's Bright in the list? She's a good wife.
My poll was I would hold hands with, and everyone was listed in alphabetical order. Shonaruth was a force that had the possibility. I mean, in either case, in either major outcome, I was willing to entertain would still be like BBG. But as soon as it came along with Bright from session 0 when we were talking about characters, because just like I do in the workshop, I didn't want that to be hollow, and it's how I operate too. What you bring is the world that I just I take your Lego blocks and I try and build cool stuff out of it. And so if we have a compelling, great old one,
any good DM or ST should do,
played by someone, and Jade also wasn't even just a random creation. Jade existed before.
Wow,
this game.
It's 25% across the board.
That one wants to decide.
This is why I love polls.
But now Weejass didn't exist until Lethality said that she existed through the character of Celine. And I went with it. I'm like, all right, these are two compelling forces that I'm sure I could tie together. And Bright as a figure outer is going to be the main, like, a main driving force that is going to continue things ahead, be a source of revelation and inspiration. And so I didn't have too much at the beginning for Tazray or Raphael, although I was trying to tie Raphael in with the goings on with the tumbled wench, because there was something suspicious going on there. And then Tazray was just a happy-go-lucky barbarian. Like, he would just travel anywhere and hit stuff, and I would give him a delightful adventure in that regard too. But
I mean, hey, sometimes the simple things in life are the best things. Sometimes you just want to be a big dragon ball with a huge axe and go around hitting stuff.
Yeah. And you know what?
There's nothing wrong with that.
If he had an amazing time, not that I would still try and put something compelling in for him, and I would like to think that while those players ended up dropping for their own reasons, we honored the fact that they at least tried to play with us. And,
yeah,
you know, they were used through the story and go from there. But yeah, Shonaroth, when Derek brought this entity into the game, that's when it had to happen. There had to be some major influence or confrontation. Now, maybe it wouldn't be like the big bad evil guy, but it would still be a force to be reckoned with that either Jade would have to work through or work with, or just a powerful force. Because now this is purely my observation or my thoughts. Patrons many times are just treated as a throwaway power source. Like they're batteries for your flashlight. You know, it's just like, yeah, I made a pact. Whatever, patrons out there, you know, just you got a sugar daddy giving you spells, or you know, you got a magic mommy giving you steppies, and you know, and like that's kind of it, right? It's just sort of the passes along. So I wanted something compelling to highlight the patron, because many of us are also just used to gods existing, and like, okay, we get the concept. So I wanted to make sure that I could treat the patron as more than a battery. I could do something compelling with the patron, where the patron is a force in the world. And then where we had Ouijas, no, of course we had the classic interpretation, which I'm fine with, and you know, we ran with it. But along the way, I knew that I wanted to eventually make it into something that was ours, to our story. And that's where the story of Little Jasmine had come up. And also, whether or not you all know that, there was a reference in that story about Little Jasmine, because it was Jade telling you the story of Little Jasmine. But there's the whole thing about the East, and where you have Jasmine and Jade as things from the East. Jade's descent, Jade is not from, I mean, she's from the area, but her lineage is not. Jade's appearance was always, in our terms, Asian looking. And you can see that in especially in Derek's slideshow, but in other ways too. And so there's a sense of foreignness, of being an outsider in appearance and lineage, and to tie in that we have these two sort of mortal enemies that had been pitted against each other in this great and everlasting war. And Jade and Jasmine are both from the East.
That Jade was, you know, supposed to be kind of Asian looking. I never caught on to that.
I've always hinted at culturally. Because quite literally, try and imagine someone from Imperial Japan, way back when, being with somebody who is like from the lowlands of Scotland, and that's where you end up getting that pair.
If you take a look at the screen, my players, if you take a look at the stream, you can see
and Mom laughing in the background.
Jade's mom and dad on screen. And
Well, especially with Green Shield being where it is in this island that is a hub for travel, I would expect people from different cultures of coming across the pond. I would expect there to be a little bit of a melting pot in there, right?
Yeah.
So that was just my thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm. Mesomasca being an island nation has so many different types of people.
So you can see, you know,
Yep.
Mom and Dad,
Yes, sir.
Stillwater, Jade and Jacob. Very happy memory here in this star. Which, the wrestling scene, working things out with Dad Stillwaters, I loved it. I loved
That
it.
was a good scene.
Very powerful. I was very moved by it. But yeah, the family, well, half the family anyway, isn't necessarily from around these parts. So, Coffee, if you want to lean into that in some way, there have been some vague hints of the East.
What may be the West in this regard?
It could be the West in this regard. I mean, you go
Well,
far
the
enough
West-
west and you're East anyway.
The West Ocean is larger across than the East Ocean in the world, because I've fleshed out the map of the world.
Something, speaking of other, like, foreigners, strangers in a strange land, you know, due to time constraints, or, you know, you all were just busy, or it didn't really come up, obviously DJ is not a native of this land. Now,
No.
DJ was born from some random comments in chat, but I love that sort of thing, and I adapted it. And DJ has a place in the world. DJ comes from a place in the world. Now, DJ's story has not been, you know, the only person who knows DJ's story, like, in full, is Selter. And so you could say by regard, like Jade and Shoneroth or whatever. But
Alright, that's
DJ
wonderful.
only opened up to Jade. And it's not that Cypher might not be able to piece things together or, you know, whatever. But the only person who really knows is Jade. Or is, I'm sorry, is Selter. Because they formed a really strong bond. And as for DJ's story, you have gotten some interaction with him. There are some details that are open, and all I can tell you is that he's a Valor Bard with a soldier background, and I will let your minds wander. Well, another sort of last-minute regret that I didn't include, because, you know, just emotional moment, we were caught up in time and everything. In the final credit scene, when we get to the end, and this was the same scene that was used for Mordecai in the longest moment, right? This is the keep on the, like, this is the first pilgrim establishment, right? This was the sunset that was frozen in time. And so, you know, as the song goes, all we have to do is face tomorrow. And it's here that Mordecai and Celine fade. Then the night passes, and then we have dawn coming up at the same ruins on the other side. And, you know, some nice little effects here. Something that that I wanted to do as well, there just wasn't enough time, because I was editing this at the very last minute as well. I wanted to put a strange-looking sailing ship appearing over in the Dawn Sea. Or I guess so technically, because it would be facing the west, and that's the entrance. It would have been coming in from this side as well. And that is to show that there were outsiders who were coming to the area for some reason. But you know, to imply that there is an envoy, or soldiers, or scouts, or whomever. Leave it open to the imagination, but that non-locals which would include not even Shadowheart. It would just be a strange-looking sailing ship built for people who have different bodies than the regular assortment of humanoids you'd find here. But there wasn't really a way for me to work that in. But that was an intention, was at the last moment to put an outsider coming onto the map. No detail beyond that. It was a bit of an open... it could be a vague hint at DJ. It could be DJ's people. It could be otherwise an open hand to pass something off to Coffee as well.
Well, the future of a campaign may not ever get to Mesomaska.
It may not.
Oh, you're not playing in Mesomaska? Where are you playing?
It's called the Goyera Archipelago, where it's kind of like on the Antarctic Circle of the world.
Oh, interesting. So that's quite far.
Yeah, and
it's to the east. It's on the other side of the mountains of Uct.
It's on the other side of the mountains of Uct. It's to the south. If you think of Mesomaska as kind of like an equator line, then it's a southern hemisphere archipelago that has giant coral reefs in it. It's very dangerous to travel by boat, and so a lot of what the archipelago does, as far as making money for itself, is escorting cargo barges through the reef. So
interesting.
That's where we're going to find our new cast of characters, is in the middle of a city that has had a canal carved out of it, and they're going to be at this canal city in a tavern, and that's where we're going to find them.
Starting the campaign in a tavern.
Yep.
Who does that?
Starting a campaign on a boat is a lot better. Come on, guys, back me up.
It is a tradition long passed from generation of dungeon master unto the next, from his teacher before him.
It does involve a ship.
Oh, there's another
Called
poll
the
that
ship.
went live. Casimir Dragon Daddy, Mordecai Blue Bay, Cypher Silver Fox, Lokiadius Sly Spy, Jacob Greengard.
Look,
They-
it's either going to happen
they're all
that
lost.
way, or they're all prisoners on a ship.
I mean, everyone has voted that equally they are all best husbando.
And if you'd like to see them all, check out the memorial in the seasonal art section on Discord, because they're all at the bar, drinking in celebration of the grand victory. Like they're all going to be reunited.
This scene.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, do you remember going bear hunting with Bright, Mordecai?
Bear hunting.
Yes,
with
I remember
Bright.
That was
Bear
such
hunting.
a fun mini scene.
Besties.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 3. Oh.
They want to find this bear with their holding hands like besties. They're so cute.
And it's baby Celestia Peggy Sue.
Yep. All right. Well, any other requests, regrets? Do you want to go Easter egg hunting? What would you like? Oh, hey, there's.
I did have a
Jasper.
question about Oiho.
Yeah.
So what's happening there now? I mean, now that Weejas is kind of unblocking the pipeline, so to speak, are souls ending up there as in the afterlife again, or is there a more positive afterlife for souls that don't commit so many deadly sins? Or how does it work now?
Well, so Oiho is not necessarily the bad place. I mean, it is, but it's not in the concept of that's where your soul goes if it's bad. It's a place that Mercury, through her great power and sheer force of will, managed to create. Now, in part, this is why the DM also wanted to exclude pocket dimensions from the player characters, because there's some things that I wanted to do. If I said that that's a line, but I present something like that, then it creates sort of a power difference or an appreciation in you that, oh, this is strange. Like, because my character would be baffled by this extra dimensional space because this doesn't exist. There's no magic that's known to do this. So it intentionally was created because Mercury wanted a place to rule. Now, that's what she'll tell you. She needed a place to retreat from Shonaroth, which is also why the Fae went into hiding and et cetera, et cetera. The vampires sort of went into torpor. Because with Shonaroth around, that was its mission, to stop it. So she made it, and she made it in such a way that the strongest will is the one that had the influence, which is why Bright, you were able to take over a portion of it. Why there was a Neurothan influence, because the sky was green for a while there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But ultimately, it still exists. It probably operates differently now, because it was with, how to explain, this is such a weird relationship, because Ouijas is made to also kill the fiends, but there is kind of a truce or a stalemate, because if we just killed everyone, there'd be no one left to consume. There'd be no more memories. There'd be nothing else. Mercury, Mercury is a manipulator, someone who plays the long con, someone who plays into lust and desire. And so think of it as a kind of a symbiotic relationship is what it developed into. Or it's the case where, have you ever read about the tarantulas that actually almost keep little frogs in their nests? Because the little frogs will eat the bugs that want to eat the tarantula eggs. And so while the tarantula is larger than the frog, it realizes that the frog is doing it a service by eating these little bugs and parasites and stuff. That's kind of the relationship that Ouijas and Mercury had brokered, because both of them were put way into the defensive with the arrival of Shonaroth. And so Mercury would continue to stir the whims, the wiles, and the desires that would lead to procreation in people. And she was allowed to, especially through her pacts and other, in a similar way where her magic would sort of indenture people's souls to her, would draw them to her place for power and such. So it was kind of a business deal, made in a moment of desperation at just this sheer weight of Shonaroth. So they each just kind of did their thing, and that's also why they could share a space. But it was also the same kind of a pocket space Shonaroth could get into, because there's a weird, like a subspace, whatever. Anyway, so anyway, the properties of it have just been inherited now by whoever has the strongest will. In that case, it's probably going to end up going to Casimir and Tam. Although, I mean, what happens to oh shoot, was it Gary that was left behind, or was it Glenn? Shoot, shame on me for forgetting, because one of them didn't make it out of that fight.
Right.
I can never tell them apart anyway.
You couldn't? They had different horns. Anyway.
I know, still.
No, it's fine. I'm just razzing you. But so one sort of stayed behind because he was already familiar, because, I mean, that's where Mom lived. Which is also a potent part. If you go back and look at Jade's story, that whole thing is actually, it's a big part, because that was the thing. Because, of course, Shonaroth had an interest. Anyway.
I thought one of the twins died.
Yeah, one of the twins died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget offhand if it was Glenn or Gary that stayed behind. Who's the one who, like, I grabbed you stuff, I can only be here for a little bit, but I gotta go back.
He went back.
Otherwise, this place is gonna fall apart. And
yeah,
and
I
when
didn't
it
think
did,
he went back.
yeah, with all the
Oh,
turmoil,
yeah,
whatever
the bottles and
machinations.
his sons.
What's that?
The bottles and his
Yes.
sons.
Yep. And I hope that you all enjoyed his little side stories. You got to develop it as well. But that's also
that was fun.
through the eyes of Jade. You could see in that animatic. But yeah, so he went back to try and hold it, keep it together from falling apart. Because all of these souls were just sort of like there. They just existed. They were in a sense like the undead city for the prince. Like they just existed almost to serve. But some of them, through the experimentations of Mercury, because she had powers of grand design and whatever, was trying to turn the giants and the dragons that were in her realm. Because again, she was around then, and she hunted them, she ate them, she did these things. So she actually had them, as you saw reflected in the location art of Oiho, and they were there just sort of producing more because they were kept in a state of like limbo, and so their will, their dreams were just sort of pouring out of them and adding to the mass that has just been growing over time and over time and over time. So now it would be up to the remaining twin if he wanted to come back or serve with Casimir, but just by dominance, unless Casimir and or Tam didn't want to rule. But of course Tam has plenty of experience ruling. They, Oiho would go over to their control, and I don't know what would happen. That would really be a call for Darkwolf to make, in how she envisions a place that is mutable to the personality of the ruler, through the architecture and through even like the sky color and all this. How would it end up looking? What would it end up doing? Would it end up providing this force that could be tapped into? Of course, Mercury wanted to create a reliance on her through Shadowhar, and the Shadowhar also were in with Weejass, so that's kind of the partnership thing going through. But now, that's broken. It's not leaking energy anymore. But also, they may not be interested in claiming more souls. Or maybe they actually want to usher everyone from this weird kind of altered existence or afterlife. It's in a sense, it's also a distorted past, because it changed everyone. Which also, Derek did an amazing job with Casimir. I don't know if you caught that, Dark Wolf. Did you catch Casimir's part? Maybe they just want to close it down, and Tam and Casimir go and rule from the mountain of Vale Artsua as the returned Queen of Eld of the dwarves. But really, I'm with whatever direction you want to take. That was the point, was that this was a place of ambition. This was a place of power. It was meant to help tell the story of what happened and to establish the pecking order of which entities were more powerful or afraid of each other. So yeah, I guess Darkwolf, if you have an idea for what Oiho would look like or do under Tam and or Kaz's rule, you'd get first dibs. Otherwise, I could come up with something myself, and or Coffee can, if Coffee ever wanted to use this as a realm or a different place, sort of at a time, you can, but it's really left in the air because it's all a matter of whoever rules. It changes.
Yeah.
That's why Brighton has a litter box there and kind of had her own neighborhood.
So, I mean, you did explain what happened to Oiho, but not what the afterlife is now.
The afterlife was you get eaten by Weejass.
Right.
Yeah, but what is it now?
But there's no Weejass.
Now? Yeah. Now?
It's up to it is an etherical flux that Coffee must bring some form to, which I can help you with, Coffee, if you would like.
The vague implication.
I have an idea already, so
the vague implication for the fickle gods in the meta of the game with chat and everything was that you have outside entities that are watching this story take place, and in their own ways, maybe not through direct confrontation, but these different entities, these different gods or goddesses or patrons would nudge events. Because Mesotopia is a huge, problem for the rest of Zuviwell. But because of the force of personality and the contention and the attitude of everyone there, it was super hostile. And gods have a problem interacting, in a sense, with people who don't believe in them or aren't aware of them. And as it was very monotheistic, like it was almost exclusively monotheistic, the best they could do would be to nudge the story along in different ways. And I wanted to try and indirectly storytell with the fickle god's favors. So now that there is not a claim on the lands, a new god or goddess might arise, or the ones from elsewhere, through prophets or missionaries or just through sheer presence, might flow there,
Also land
and some
worship.
kind of an afterlife in that regard. Or people might just want to retire to Oiho. I don't know. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Also land worship is a thing.
Land worship?
Mm-hmm. Worship of Zuviwell, just as Mordecai and Selene did.
The residents of the Six Landlords would be sort of the new epicenter of faith, because they're the ones with those traditions to celebrate and observe the land and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly right. I hate to have to do this, but I actually need to disappear because I just realized the time and I need to get ready.
Okay.
Nuzzles.
Well, thank you
try.
for
See you in the future.
yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us, Lethality.
Oh, you're most welcome, but I must disappear into the ether. I will be around, of course.
Yep. And if you have, and beyond this, for all of you, if any of you have any other questions or straight, strings or a plot hole you need filled, then just let me know.
I don't really have much in the way of questions, so I'm just here to essentially get the what happened afterwards, so that I can make a story around it.
Let me ask you then something. Not Lethality. Coffee Cap. In the moment here, Dark Wolf did a very good job with your, because she drew and animated all this herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you get the idea that this is a song that you and Selene are singing to each other and sometimes together, based on the subtitles. But as you're watching the sunset and you know what's going to come, it's getting pinker and darker. The sun is starting to go. You're laying down in her lap. Now Mordecai is the one who passes first, and then Selene fades because there's no more life energy to pull on. And I mean, Lethality just left, but I'd almost like to think that Selene might have been easing your pain, because I mean, you're like a 90-year-old Mordecai here, so she might have been very like tempered, like easing you off into this. But so you die, and then right here when she starts to fade, it's because there's no more life to take. As you two are watching the sunset, what, beyond the implication that you're singing to each other or the sentimentality, is there something, whether they're final words or just the nature of the conversation, that you two are having? Because I mean, you even put this on your bucket list, which I of course didn't reveal this to you at all or anything, and you this naturally happened. But what was it that you were talking about here as the sun was setting on your life? You were able to reflect back on, on this entire journey. Do you have any last words or wishes, or can you bring us into the scene beyond just the lyrics and the visuals here?
I think there would have been a lot of quiet, because I think both of them knew, or would have been incredibly aware of how short of a time Mordecai had left. Sickly old man, kind of a deal. I think the only question he would have for Selene is, You would ask her if she had any regrets. Because he's not sure if they if they got to the point where they could tackle them all.
Okay.
Because there was still some things that she never told him. He never. I out of character know now that Celine's family disowned her, and she was basically abandoned at boarding school. But I don't think Mordecai really knew that. Might have had an idea, because she would be cagey, probably, during conversation about anything about her past. Like, anytime he asked her what her last name was, like, you know, over the course of, like, the desert or whatever, when they were starting to get to know each other a little bit better, that, you know, personal things like her last name, you know, what is her family like, all of that sort of thing. She'd get cagey about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when, you know, things started to kind of get heated and things like that, then he didn't really press it. But he would want to know if she had any regrets, because the only regret that he has is that he never got to meet her family to tell them what kind of a woman she was.
We'll have to put that one up in our chat then, because it's a shame we don't have lethality here for it. But I think that is, I think that would be a very appropriate. Like, look, it's just us here. We know what's going to happen.
Otherwise, he has no regrets.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Mordecai left everything. Like, just it's out there. You at least got to say, you know, you got to say some words to your dad in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I think I told you this, Coffee, but for the rest of you, I'm sorry that I couldn't give more time to your return to Mesotopia from Aslandia, because I know there was a lot of good roleplay moments that could have been there with performing beside the healing words and all this. There just wasn't the time for me to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because some of that could have acted as further prep for the final fight to come. Pardon me.
Yeah.
But so forgive me for that. That is a regret. Like, not that I'm going to, you know, cry going to my grave over it, but if I could go back and do something differently, I would have loved to have spent more time, at least one session, if not two maybe, on your way back to highlight some things, or to give you that interpersonal time to actually talk.
Right.
Because you have a brand new-ish Celter, you have all of you together in the ship, you all are unified, and you know, it also could have built up to something along those lines of you know, just more of those personal moments.
Yeah.
Right. I think I live for personal moments, so it's one of those things where I prioritize that when it comes to my games. I love those things. That's something that I will always do in my games. D&D or Vampire, it's those little moments that I find the most memorable, but that's just me.
I completely agree. I agree that the ending got kind of the Game of Thrones treatment, unfortunately. I feel like although the final battle played out well, and the way in which we were able to, like, the disparate ways that we dealt with Shonaruth and Weejas, I think that all worked out really well, but it didn't feel very natural. And like the trip back, it just didn't. Yeah, I didn't like having that all resolved off screen. That was a bummer, and not just the trip back, but between as well. I think Shonaruth and Weejas both deserve their own episode.
Yeah, if I could go back, those are absolutely things that I wish that I could have gone back. And
did you feel like you were on a time crunch, Medi?
Yes and no. In the grand scheme of things, am I in a time crunch? No. Like, I don't have something hanging over my head.
No, I meant like for the game.
But for the game, like, I personally, I need more time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been playing in the game, and things have gotten to a pretty developed point. We've been in the final arc for a while. A lot of things were revealed, and I knew that if I didn't just set a date, as arbitrary as it might seem, if I didn't just set a date and say, this is it, then it would continue, or I would continue to not have the time that I personally need to do the things that I need to do for myself or for the business, like the channel and the store and everything.
Right.
So I totally get that. Hopefully it wasn't too rushed or it wasn't terrible. And I did try and wrap things up in a way that was at least, it made sense, or maybe in reflection, like you like, oh yeah, I see it. I guess like it was kind of building to this now that I'm thinking about it and I can breathe and think about it. But I need to personally have more time. And the game, with the state of maturity as it is now, 4 years later, it was time to button it up. It was time to put away the memories, that we could take out and look at again or discuss or, do whatever, revisit. Of course, you're doing the sequel campaign, and you have to, and you were going to start that up soon too. So I wanted to get this.
Well, I did.
Ended,
I was.
But
I did. But that.
It was more for me. Don't feel guilty. It's not like, oh, I got to rush for you. I
never wanted that
for it because I need to just stop for a while. At some point in the future, will I run another game? Sure. But at least for now, I needed it to end because I needed one more day. And especially with the game being moved to Fridays to accommodate for lethality, Fridays were otherwise kind of a popular day in the workshop.
All right.
So it was me trying to weigh a lot of different variables and go, well, look, if I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to be this elder god, and I'm going to try and arrange a bunch of different things so that at this point I can try and shift 5 things at once to realign, I realign my spine, right? I got a bunch of cracks out of it, and then, but there we go. So I was trying to get things in a point where this was the end. We would button it up. It put some pressure on me to make sure that I understand. I wish we had more time, but I wanted to guarantee that we were, as best as I could, to guarantee that we would have an awesome ending. Something memorable with the twist at the end, and then the very.
I loved the ending. Don't get me wrong.
But yeah, like coming into this wasn't like I was not bored of the story. I wasn't disinterested or aggravated. It was me just making the hard choice of
putting a deadline on it.
I needed it to end. Yeah.
Yeah. Putting a deadline on it, because otherwise it would go on into perpetuity.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, and trust me, there's been many nights like, oh man, I not only regrets, but like, oh, what could this have done in the future? Or there's all these other unresolved things, and it's. But everything has to end. Otherwise, because I've seen it too much in comic books and everything else, where it gets contrived.
It just goes on.
It just goes on. Things lose meaning. If I already have a plot hole here or there, it's only going to get worse. Whereas a nice, tighter story, that it has an end, and it may not be the best ending or whatever, but it's an end. The story's been told. We can tweak things in memory here and there and go back and revisit it, but it needed to be ended so we could actually just appreciate everything that we've done.
Yeah. if you don't mind just a little bit of kvetching.
Sure.
Kvetching?
Yeah.
What does that word even mean?
It means what I'm about to do.
Okay.
I feel like, given that you did know that the end was coming, I think the past, 6 to 8 episodes could have been paced a little differently. I felt like we spent a lot of time locked in a room. There were a couple of episodes where we spent most of the session locked in a room waiting for things to play out. And given the choice of the things that were on screen and were off screen, I think that could have been a little different. Okay, that's all. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Aw.
I do agree. It was, as a DM, it was a very hard balance. This is I'm not trying to wiggle out of that, because what you said is correct. It's very fair. And I know that you're offering it as like constructive criticism, right? Constructive feedback. I was in a weird position as well, because, well, we knew, like, I put, okay, guys, we have this long that we're playing, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted things to... I wasn't quite sure where exactly to apply the pressure, or to sort of artificially push things forward, especially because I have been sitting on this twist, on this moment, for a while, and I know it'd been brewing, and I'd been taking a lot of heat for the choices and the cutscenes and everything that had been building up to that point, because I still wanted to offer you, as much as I could, natural interaction instead of a bunch of coaxed interaction. I wanted your decisions to mean something. I wanted you, like, there was the point on the horizon, but I still wanted you to try and get there. And so I might have dragged my feet, or I think I brought this up with Coffee before, regarding the split party between Aslandia, and that's when the Norlai Bright sort of relationship started up as well. Whether it was the right call or not, I mean, I see it both ways. And in the moment, Norlai and Bright had very strong reasons not to go to Aslandia, even though I really needed you to get into that teleport circle. I really wanted you in that teleport circle. And it would have been me as your DM just absolutely overriding Bright's gut feelings,
player agency,
and your player agency. Yeah. And so I said, all right, I get we're going to split the party, and because the Aslandia content is what I was intending to present. With the clues, the stuff that you made contact with the army, because I wanted you to have that moment of like, oh, that's an airship, like, oh, you kind of tense up and whatever. That was what I wanted to present. As a DM, though, I didn't want to strip that away from Bright and Norlai, so I rolled with a split party. And maybe that was the right answer, the wrong answer, or I could have done something to try and interweave things better between the two. But I tried to keep it. I said, look, all right, we have the Aslandia crew. We're going to see what happens. Worst case, I intend for you to get back together. So as long as they pay attention to what happens at each part, maybe through Bright and Norlai, I can try and develop some other clues, things that are happening, meanwhile or elsewhere, so that there's a lot more notes. And every session, while the party was split, would still reveal something. So yeah. I know pacing at times, or maybe there's a part of an arc or something that
I have to say that the split party section of the game was one of my favorite parts of the game. Although we did miss a lot of sessions during that time period, and that was kind of a bummer. But as far as the way it actually played out, I have two things to say about it. First, like I said, one of my favorite parts of the game. It was so essential for the way our characters all developed over the rest of the game. I mean, that's when Mordecai and Celine, really became engaged. Really, that's when Bright and Norlai started to become friends, and it really set the stage for the whole rest of the way the intra-party dynamic played out over the rest of the campaign. So there's no way I could say that was not one of the key moments in the game. And I think about shows that have, or like TV shows that have done similar things, where there's like a huge break. And I know I shouldn't base my character off of a TV show unless I want to keep coming back to it. But in Angel, it's like when they go to Pylea and they all get scattered in different ways, and the show is never the same after that. And that's kind of what we did with that story arc. I liked also that the two different storylines had completely different tones. I mean, Aslandia was really serious, really life and death.
Yeah.
And Bright and Lorelei was fluff. It was fluff that had meaning, right? Because of the all the stuff that was going on, but just the nature of those characters made for a very lighthearted tone, and I think that was really a big win too.
Okay.
And the fact that you were willing to do that as a DM, I'm something of a disciple of the angry GM, and he says that you should absolutely never allow players to pull a stunt like that. Just say, like, I'm the DM, I'm a player too, I cannot run two separate games for the party splits, so figure out a way that you, in character, can all do this together or not do it together. One way or another, you're all going or you're not going. He's actually got an article about this. And I'm like, well... Here I am.
I'm one of those DMs who cannot necessarily run two games inside the same game.
But you were willing to do that, and you I know it cost a lot of time, both for us as just running the sessions long, but also extra prep, and I have a tremendous amount of appreciation for it. So anyway, that's what I had to say about that. So compared to, like, I wasn't thinking like, oh, we spent too many sessions on that. I was thinking too many sessions since meeting the Dwarven Kingdom.
Okay.
I was only thinking in terms of since the time period when you knew that the game was going to end.
I had a completely different story in mind to reveal to you in El Artois. But for some reason, trademark. For some reason... She's hiding her face in shame. We didn't do that. So with what you did get, though, because I was kind of like, I was put into that scramble of like, it's not two separate stories, but the story I was really hoping to present is sort of off the table now. And I hope that at least with the Doppels and with the story of the Third Prince, that was at least a good substitute. I will say this, maybe you suspected it. Argent was Zuviwao. That was Zuviwao's incarnation.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Hang on. I did not pick up on that at all.
Yeah. Argent was Zuviwao. Like, you were in the presence of Zuviwao.
Greg killed Zuviwao.
Yes.
What?
I did not pick up on that at all.
So
I just thought that Argent was just like some other angel type creature like Celine, and that it was an undead that fed on life essence.
This is an angel type creature for sure. Just... yeah, that was also like, oh, this is gonna be cool. You're gonna meet Argent. You're gonna discover that Argent is Zuvi. All right, well, he's dead. All right, well, life goes on.
Oh, okay. So, so does that mean that? So Bright killed the incarnation of Zuviwao.
Yes.
She killed Mr. Halver.
Yes.
She killed Weejass.
Yes.
She killed Mercury.
Yes.
God killer.
She really did.
She
Bright the God
Triddle God killer.
Triddle
Wait, she really does something with those quills that she sharpens.
Blood overall, and I mean, so I have things like the split stories. I think that the Halloween stories, I mean, some might have been stronger than others. I hope overall they were appreciated.
I love them
for the different things that were there. I love doing those special little things for you. Overall,
those are great.
I really liked Casimir's nightmare because he just took it. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a monster."
Yeah, yeah, and that was his arc. I think the favorite Halloween stories for me, of course, as I said in my response, were the Celine egg.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Jade story, the
That-
very first one where we
first one.
saw non-corrupted Jade. Those are the two Halloween stories that I remember the most. I mean, I remember Brights, of course, because I was the star on them, but they were good, but they weren't that good.
I
lethality
wish that
still says that the Celine with the egg kind of just messes him up still. Kind of
I did try.
Gets him in the feels.
I tried as hard as I could to make that to stick that one.
I was sad that the second time around, quote unquote, that lethality wasn't at the table with us for that one.
Yeah.
To do it to him again. Instead, I did my best and be like, man, Celine's just in shock. She's just flabbergasted.
Overall,
So I have two more questions.
yeah, go ahead.
They're both about Norlai.
Okay.
Uh,
There you go, Dark Wolf.
one
You're
of
on the
them-
spot.
One of them is maybe a "this is none of your business" question. So I'll ask the other one first, and that is, how is Norlai the only one of us who's coming out of this with the ability to lead a normal life? Celine and Mordecai are both dead. Bright is, she's
Reconstructing magic.
Yeah, she can no longer relate to other mortal creatures. And then Norlai, she's still got the orphanarium. She's got a fiance, or she's got a life she can lead. What's she gonna do? I don't know if we've talked about that, and maybe I went AFK for a moment. So that's my first question. And my second question is, there were a lot of times during this game where Maddie did something to one of Awu's characters that in my mind sucked pretty hard, and I'm wondering, like, killed in a cutscene, how much of that did you work out behind the scenes ahead of time, or was it something that just
none of it was ahead of time, and I gave him so much shit for it.
She did. At least you all I can mute on Discord. I gotta see her almost every day. So
Norlai dying, the first time where she got kidnapped, I was mad about it, and I also had some emotional issues because Mr. Halver was basically her grandfather, and it kind of touched on my personal issues of not being able to say goodbye to my own grandfather.
Aww.
So
now I'm extra sad.
Yeah, so that's kind of why the next session, Norlai was kind of there in spirit and still got to see the funeral.
I see.
So, and we worked it out that I would get a temporary character and Norlai would come back. So I played Casimir, and every time you guys were supposed to go to the tower, you guys never went to the tower. And I'm just like, go to the tower and bring me back already. And then Casimir turning on you was really sudden. It was like, you know what? He's become evil in this. He's been kind of seeing himself as a dragon this whole time. He's gonna take it. So that wasn't worked out. That was me suddenly being like, yeah, he's gonna turn into a dragon. Loki, I was really mad about because, again, it was a cutscene, and I had just leveled him up. I just got to level 20, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's gonna take Crown of Stars and match his sister. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, he really got jossed there. That sucked.
Yeah, and I was just like, if he stayed an NPC, I probably would have been less upset about it, but still upset because this is my character's brother. But I was more upset because this was a character that I was playing. And I was like, come on. Yeah. If you didn't want him in the fight, you could have told me and say, like, hey, we're taking him out of the fight, blah, blah, blah. And all that. But I was just... So I was upset with that, and I did give him shit for it, so...
Yep. Okay.
It was deserved, but you also gave me a chance. you gave me a chance with it, so
Yeah,
None of it was worked out.
that would have been tough. I would have been salty. I have to admit.
I was. I was.
She
I,
was.
I was just like, why do you keep doing this to me?
Well, bygones. Okay, so what happens to Norlai then? What happens to her now?
So Norlai, she's gonna live a normal life. She's gonna run the orphanarium. Eventually, have kids. I would think that she would keep in touch with Bright, especially because I would think that Lokiadius would go to Uct to learn magic as a wizard because he would have lost his powers. And he has a sending stone, so they can talk to each other at least once a day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, once Bright gets magic booted up again, they'll be able to send sendings to each other whenever they want to, because we both know that spell. It's an easy spell for us at this point.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that one of us comes out of this well.
And you posted a picture on our casting crew, but you haven't actually leaked it to others who might be interested.
Oh, you know what? I haven't. What are you posting?
So,
so yeah, Norlai would eventually have some kids, maybe 2 or 3. But her boy would be named after Mordecai. Let me just share.
Yeah,
this.
I've seen that picture.
Mordecai. That's in the casting crew. That's not shared to the broader audience.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put that up on screen?
Yeah, go ahead, put it on screen. I'm sharing it to your creations now.
Emotional damage. Yep. The cute baby.
Mordecai Sterling.
Yeah, that's a good picture. So another thing that comes to mind for the next game, or maybe for the intergame period, right? We're having, what did you say, 100 or 150 years passing?
100 years.
100 years. So Norlai is probably going to die of old age during that time period. Unless
very likely.
So
unless Bright and or Lokiadius decide to do some shenanigans.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's something that we can talk about in the Discord. But as the controller of Bright, I'm certainly amenable to that. She would want to save Norlai, but she would also know that life extension types of magic are few and far between in this world. So I don't know. I don't know how it would work, or how it would be plausible. And I also do want Bright to be like a legend at this point, someone who nobody really can. Well, not that she's not not in terms of how well known or how not well known, but in terms of how nobody's quite sure if she's real. And that's harder if Norlai and Loki are still around because they know her.
I mean, Norlai probably would be okay with aging and passing on. Lokiadius, he's really ambitious, so he would probably be the type to try to extend his own life.
So we have Lichiadius as one of the big BBEGs for the later game.
He probably would be like, hey, I want to see how long I can go.
Well,
he works out.
And especially if he goes to wizarding school, it helps Bright. Relearn magic and all that, or reconstitute magic. He probably would be in the position to do that.
I also see him being very mindful of his own health if he wants to live that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. He's a super.
Also, unlike Norlai, he doesn't eat sweets every day.
Right.
Oh, I thought that was like a dietary requirement for tieflings. They just have to have cookies every day.
No, that's just Norla. She just loves sweets.
Oh.
Mordecai's thing was
Norla becomes the old granny. Norla becomes the old granny who always has hard candies and butter. And
Yep, one of those cuddly. There's two kinds of grandmothers in the world. There's crotchety chain smoking grandma and cuddly cookie baking grandma.
Yep.
Norla is absolutely cookie baking grandpa.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm suddenly having flashbacks of Grandma knocking out my cousin with a cast iron head.
Okay, so that's crotchety grandma. I did have another question, and this is a hypothetical.
Sure.
Because what we learned at the end is that Shonorath, see how I'm trying to pronounce it correctly now?
It's a tongue
exacts
twister.
revenge on the people who have not upheld his pact faithfully.
Mhm.
And if Jade had survived to the end, what would have happened?
The reason why I intended this to be a short game was, number one, I didn't know how available 4 or 5 random strangers on the internet I just recently met would be able to meet. So I was planning for something short term. I wanted you to step up and be bold and confront the boss. Like all the sessions were verbs. To go and do things. And that's why I also say Jade won. When she got absorbed by the tree, I had a whole dungeon ready to go that you would be crawling through the tree, you would meet Shonorath, you would make contact, and you would have, it would set something up for a more recent boss fight. I was thinking maybe you all would play to 10. Like, nice, light, most games go to 10. We got to develop some things. And maybe by then, I don't know, things in your lives would change because of jobs or moving or relationships or just life happening. And I'm like,
I've changed jobs 3 times. I just make priority.
Well, thank you. And so that's why I keep saying,
I've changed
it's
jobs
short form.
Twice,
and so
technically.
Jade, like when Derek did that and got absorbed, like, I had to keep a straight face. Like, I had to keep it serious. Like, Jade got absorbed. Oh, no. And Derek and I had a conversation after Jade was absorbed, regarding, like, hey, you're not dead, but, but we talked about it and things continued on as they did.
Abandoned.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Derek, all your characters keep getting murked and then abandoned by the party. But
it's one of Mordecai's least shining moments.
So is it in real life. I am used to this.
But the concept is still the same that carried over to the level 20 game, where Jade's will was enough to contest this living pact because she infiltrated Shonorath. She worked within the machine the entire time. Like, before she was like a part of the machine. Now she went into it and was effectively the heart. Like, she, at that point, it wasn't so much show as Jade Neroth. Because she was the one trying to arrange things for you all. And so whether it was the short form game where she would lead you all in the confrontation, however it would end up, and then it would be Jade's will versus versus Show's will, and then maybe Weejass is in there or supporting or doing whatever, but that's a whole other circumstance to entertain. But it would have been Jade with you all confronting Show and, like, dismantling or incorporating herself or having a more blatant takeover in front of you. Then she got absorbed. You all went, nope, we're done. We're out of here. We don't want to lose our lives. Which played into the whole story of running away from duty and running away from the pact and and everything.
Now,
So
this is something that I gave you a little criticism on when you were asking for it.
Yeah.
Is
lay it on me.
the way you frame some stuff makes it seem like it's bad.
Yes.
So when Jade was absorbed by the tree, it seemed like we had no power in the situation. There were forces trying to get everyone there, like Bright and Celine were getting targeted by mind control spells. So in every, like, in the the gamer sense, our turn is this is bad, do not touch it. And then once she was absorbed, even though that was supposed to be what happened, in your sense, there was nothing that said to us, there's a dungeon in there.
Correct.
Go in the dungeon.
That, looking back on it, that's the intention because that's also a big point where Mordecai really took on a lot of guilt for that, because it was not a shining moment for him. Because he'd been kind of, working himself into a position where he's like, okay, I've got to protect these people. I've got to do my part. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. He's putting a lot of duty and responsibility on himself. And when they don't have a response or a way to really tackle the flesh tree, and Jade gets absorbed by it, that was a moment of weakness in him, in that he didn't go to try and intervene. He didn't feel like he could. He didn't feel like he had the power to be able to do so. And so, what could he do but to make sure nobody else got by the charm, and that that they all get out of there.
Yeah, and I'm not upset about the charm specifically. I'm not upset. I think that was a good moment in the storyline. I think Jade sacrificing herself like that, as she would then continue to do for the rest of the game, even if we didn't always know about it.
Yeah,
I think that was a highlight moment for her character. But I do agree with Darkwolf that both in and out of character, I at least had no clue that going into the tree was a viable option.
Yep. So
I think
my straight
was
face
intentionally obscure.
My straight face for that, and probably a lot of other things presented throughout the course, was, I mean, that was heat I was willing to take. And if it made it seem like that I was ignorant of something, I understood it, because I knew in my heart of hearts it was actually the bold moves were the moves that would pay off. Because in part we had Mordecai and Noralai, as part of their backgrounds, were scared. They would run, or they were just otherwise, they were very averse. And as the DM, I wanted to play into that. And I wanted to give them opportunities to be brave and take those chances. So keeping a straight face was difficult for me, but I had to let things naturally play out. I felt like a nature photographer. I'm out on a photo safari in Africa, and I'm like, oh, that's a very cute meerkat family. Uh-oh, that's a pack of hyenas coming over here. Do I warn the meerkats, or do I let nature take its course? And my default was let nature take its course. And it sucks to watch little baby meerkats get eaten, but it was gonna make memories for you. It was going to reinforce, that there are good or bad consequences to the decisions, and to back up the whole theme of go and do things and be bold and adventure and go out there into the world. And so I couldn't reveal a lot of things. Otherwise, I felt like it would be, I don't know, it would undermine that experience. So to that end, I didn't mean to hurt any of you, and if I did hurt you, I'm sorry. Though I hoped that the payoff, when the story concluded, you can look back and go, you know what, like that sucked, or oh, that's really interesting, or maybe maybe to be bold or to go and do something, or otherwise there was a payoff. If you had taken those actions or you had stepped up, and I would have been able to adapt to those choices as well. So
initially, I was very not keen on how long the desert arc took.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't even. How many episodes did we actually spend in the desert? Like 4?
I think it was more than that.
Oh, it was a lot more than that. Probably closer to 7.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So 7, where I was as a player, you know, we hadn't actually talked about like the fact that I struggle with puzzles all that much,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, the fact that like that was the part that was frustrating me. Like it was like we were supposed to do a specific thing, and I couldn't think of what it was,
Mm-hmm.
and Lethality couldn't think of what it was, and I don't know if Derek was catching on or not as Selter, but the like for me, I was initially very upset that took as long as it did, and so I was very keen on not making any stops anywhere. Once we got the ship ourselves and we were on our way, I was not keen on making any stops anywhere else. I was like, okay, I'm done with this desert. We're moving on. Let's get back to Mesotopia. Let's go. Let's get back to Mesomaska. Let's go. Which
Shelter, we're moving on.
but I'm also thankful for that because that's also the time at which, like we said earlier, that an integral part of, you know, Mordecai and Celine getting together happened. Some of the most memorable scenes were in that particular arc. So, like, can I be 100% mad at it? No. I think the pacing could have been a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But, like, overall, in general, I have been very happy with this game. It's been an enjoyable experience, even though there's been, like, the random bump here and there.
Yeah.
It's been a generally enjoyable experience.
All right, Maddie.
Yeah, there are bumps always, I guess.
There are. Maddie, take a step aside for a minute. I'm going to borrow your soapbox here. A little bit of an improv bit of workshop right now for you guys. Okay, if you're running a game and you ever have a puzzle portion involving. Now, sad fact of the matter is that you cannot assume that your brain works on the same wavelength of everybody else at the table. You cannot presume that they end up running into the same thing. However, fact of the matter is that some players thrive on figuring out puzzles, so they're not going to end up. They're going to be using a lot of their roles, you know, their investigation and all that kind of stuff, to be able to figure out puzzle pieces. Unfortunately, that's not everybody. And if you need to end up doing that, this is one of the reasons why it is that you might want to end up keeping your or give your players the ability to be able to make a roll to start putting things together. Walk them through the thought process. Fact of the matter is that gives them a chance to play a smart character when they have a hard time personally out of character, because we've got to remember, I want to play a character with a 200 plus IQ. I'm a dumbass. So I need the character's dice to kind of back me up on that. Unfortunately, I have Derek dice, so oftentimes my character is also a dumbass inadvertently with a 200 IQ. But
Spam him if you got him.
There are a lot of 200 IQ dumbasses in the world.
Yeah, so you fit right in. So with that in mind, you know, take the time to end up here, just testing your players a little bit, small puzzles and what have you. Figure out what they can figure out on their own, what they can intuit on their own. Because unfortunately, some plays, you know, I was not playing a character that was built for that, so Coffee Cat, I hate to let you down, but I really didn't figure out that puzzle, mostly because I was kind of relying on you two to figure it out. My job was the side content to run distraction and end up making your life as awkward as humanly possible in that whole thing, and I'm pretty sure you're grateful for it. But, again, we can go back to Matty, if he'll be the first one to tell you. I have actually called plot lines months in advance on how they were going to go. So, some people can put stuff together, and sometimes they'll get it right, sometimes they'll get it wrong. But
I am an idiot.
If you struggle with it, if you find a player struggles with it, take the time to end up considering that maybe you can end up using roles or situations in order to help them piece things together. Because Matty picked up on this a little later down. Not in the earlier game, but he started figuring this out a lot later in the game. And so that's a little bit of growth on his part as a dungeon master. I was about to say storyteller. And that is something you can take from this game, a little growth moment, and seed it into your own.
Yeah,
that was my TED Talk.
I would condense that into, we don't expect the scrawny player who's playing an 18 or 20 strength barbarian to actually lift weights when the barbarian has to do it. Therefore, we should not expect the average intelligence player who's playing a super smart character to actually solve the puzzle.
That's valid. That's the kind of approach I take with Vampire, and I intend to take into my D&D games. Is that you may not necessarily know X, Y, or Z that's in this particular situation, but your character might. So let's roll for it.
Yeah. It's fun to be able to figure it out on your own. It really is. But if you're not wired for it, or it's not your strong suit, don't be afraid to ask for a roll. Look, you made sure intelligence was your primary stat for a reason. Work it like it's hot. You got the whole ramp to work. Go nuts. Yes. Take what your mama gave you.
Yes.
Oh, it's Mr. Halber's dinner table.
Yep.
Oh, less than 3.
I am probably going to call it an early night tonight, though, because I have frequently on Fridays stayed up way too late because I work at 9 in the morning.
We can certainly wrap things up. You had already answered the last thing that I was going to ask. Anyway, Coffee. But for those of you who are still here, there were bumps along the way, or things that obviously I could have done better, or made it another call, or changed up the content. Overall, did I offer you, like, did I do your character well, or like justice? Did I offer you a game that was overall fun or memorable, or as a DM, did I do right by you?
Yeah.
Being able to look back, because I know things got tense or irritating, or things might have felt like they dragged out, but here we are in the grand wrap up, seeing where the connections had led, or all of this. It was worth your time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
of course,
I'll remember these characters and these moments, and I'll remember it forever. And I'm sticking around in the community too. So we'll.
Yeah.
No, I'm 100%. When you look at something, but yeah, when you look back at something, and when you're in the middle of it, sometimes you're just like, oh man, how am I ever? But then you look back on it, and it's a great memory. Like summer camp, you're at summer camp, and you're there, and you couldn't get your merit badge, and the other kids were bullying you, and you broke your arm, or whatever other things happened. All of those things have happened to me at summer camp, and well, they tried to bully me. I was too big to bully, but they tried. But then you look back at it, and you're like, yeah, I remember that. That was wonderful, and I think that's the way I'm going to feel about the game. Bumps and warts and all, but More good times than bad, absolutely.
Same.
Well, I'm very glad you were always in my thoughts. And despite the rough times, the times where I had to hold the cards close to my chest, or keep a straight face, or make a call that I hoped was right. Ultimately, your enjoyment, your fulfillment, and I want this to stand out. If anything, I will be selfish and I will be assertive, and I will be, I will have that dominant personality of, I want you to remember this game, this time that we spent together. I want this to be superior. I want this to be unlike any campaign that you have played in. Maybe we'll challenge any future campaigns that you ever get to play in as well. It'll at least be like a top contender always. And that's what I always wanted to go for. That this was always an experience, and that it was worth the time that you put into it, and I'm sincerely grateful.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well, stick a spear in it. I guess we're done. So, oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong screen for that.
Stick a trident in it.
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry about that, coffee.
And no penalty for fighting underwater.
My heart.
So we will. What I will do is, if any of you out in the community, if you ever want to talk about this again, stop by the future workshops at some point in time. I'll be in the DM seat again because I'm a forever DM. It won't be soon, but it will be at some point in time. Until then, Coffee's running games, Derek's running games. Dark Wolf is not running an RP game, but she has her own channel, and she's currently going through Final Fantasy X. So you can get a roleplay experience there.
So, did you need next week off? Or do you still need more time to think about it?
The fact
I can play through it too,
the fact that I want to tell you no, I'll be fine, means that I probably do need another week off. Because I really, if I have to think about it and go, nah, I'll be fine.
Take a vacay.
Like an actual vacay, like not just working at home and doing like an actual, like something that's more leisure, yes. But now that this is all buttoned up.
Do something fun.
Yeah.
Go to Cedar Point. It's there for a reason.
Between a Woo, Coffee Cat, and me, just the people in this room, we'll cover your audience for a bit, all right? We'll end up here taking care of them, give them some nice home, occasionally give them water and maybe a slice of meat every 3 or 4 days while they're locked in the cage. And, they'll be fine when you get back, minus the vet bills.
You're all pets, chat.
Sorry, we're talking about the cats, right?
You are all pets, chat.
Less than 3.
Well, then thank you all very much.
Pet the mods.
Pet the mods, all capital letters, pet the mods. If you all need to go, go ahead. I'm going to stay behind and make sure that I hit the lights and I can lock up the doors on this game. What I will do is once more, I'll play the credits as another shout out to everyone who is involved. You all, if you don't want to stick around for it, but if you're watching on the screen, everyone, I will play the credits for you.
Wait! Before you do that,
aha! The re-up, 49 months too. It's been so long. It's been 4 years.
Oh my!
Oh gosh.
You've grown this place so much, man.
It has been, this game for me is a part of an incredible journey that I will also remember and that I will appreciate. And I have so many IRL moments, more good than bad, but of course life is a mixed bag of them all.
Fluff, have I been following Maddie longer than you? No,
I have 3 days on you.
That's right.
It's close though.
Amusing.
4 years, 3 months, 30 days, and 15 hours.
All right, so you've got a month and a half on us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
Bane
I
has
know
trolled
one
Matty
person-
Marks for longer than he should have.
All right. Well, thank you. Take a bow to everyone who's here. I'll give a bow out of courtesy and performance to you as well. Thus concludes the story of the Chroma Company. Another will resume Thursday nights with Coffee Cat, and
Well, I'm gonna miss you guys.
at some point, maybe
Yeah.
maybe we can have an anniversary get together and just sort of have some fun. But whatever, we'll give it a year. Coffee's got to do some stuff. We got life to live. We have our own stuff going on, and we'll have a little alumni get together at some point too. So let me get this. Let me get the credits up, everyone. Thank you again for hanging out with us, and thank you to everyone who's been a part of this in the audience, as players, as artists and musicians.
That's something we could do at some point. Is we could level 20 battle royale all the characters.
As a get together, yeah. Put all 5 of your level 20 characters together and see who.
I wish for everyone. To be
All right,
good
everyone,
me.
mark your calendars. Next July.
No. You see, the problem with that is I can already tell you what's going to happen. 90% of it is going to be Bright and Jade counterspell. Counterspell the counterspell.
It's true.
There could be quite a bit of that.
It's true.
And then Casimir comes in and just backhands you.
Please, no.
Can't counterspell backhand.
It's a thought.
Backhand.
It's a thought.
Yep. All right, everyone. Be
Go with
well.
Celine.
Yep. Get some
Good
sleep.
night.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Sound on the stream.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Love your faces.
Good night, everyone.
And to use up the last one of this season. Fuck.
Well, there is one last thing I wanted to say. Don't have to say it on stream. Besides just thank you, because it was a fun 4 years. But also, what? You stopped it. What? What? Are we on stream? I mean, we're on stream again, though. I thought we were muted to the stream. Well, how about that? Well, I guess I mean, I don't want to talk over the lyrics, so I'll hold it.
See how the day has just